and welcome to the Mantic Universe Podcast, Pannilore edition. And I am here, and I'm joined by my trusty co-host, Wiki Dave. What's happening, Wiki Dave?
I'm all right. I've got an energy drink at 8 a.m. in the morning, and my eyes are already twitching, so I don't think it's a great sign, but I'm ready to talk about the lore, because it's all been in my head. All these thoughts have been stuck in my head about how I feel about it, and now I've got people to actually listen, so...
There you go. Well, hey, and the reason you're up early and it's the middle of the day for me is because we have Matthias joining us from Austria. How's it going, Matthias, my good friend and Champions co-host? What's happening?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So yeah, we are deep diving into Kings of War at the moment. I got my printed book just some days ago, so I'm eager to discuss everything I discovered the last days, spending my time reading through it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we all got our hardcovers, I think. We all got them.
Yeah.
I don't think they come back in paper cover yet, but it's a nice looking book. I do know Chris has some very interesting feelings about our fourth edition, so I do suggest anyone to listen to the monthly to elaborate on that. He's a bit he is critical on it, which is actually fair criticism if you listen to it.
Yeah,
he has a point. Honestly, he has a very, very good point, and I'm not going to ruin what he said, but we're not going to be talking about the rules. We're not going to be going into a lot of the nitty-gritty about the gameplay or anything like that. We're just going to be solely focused on the lore. So keep in mind that, this is separate from how we feel about the game, how we feel it plays, all that stuff. So I just want to make that clear, because I do think the lore sounds like it's done based off what the reaction of the community is. Sounds like the lore has hit better than the actual game itself. So let's just make sure we separate them now. I think that's a nice little disclaimer to put on it before diving in.
There are a lot of people talking about the rules and rules quality and balance at the moment, but hardly anyone skips into the lore part, so that should be covered as well, and here we are.
Yeah, and there are some people that love lore, but I mean, lore is something not even, especially a game like this. It is a game at the end of the day. It's less about the lore. That's not how it was originally established. But just like Warhammer, like so many other fantasy worlds, you start to go beyond that, and that's what gives a game and a world legs. And that's what I love about it. But I guess we should, before we get too excited, we should give our overall thoughts of how we feel. And we'll start with you, Mark, because it's only fair, because you've been around the world, or the Pannilore world, longer than anyone.
Yeah, I started before there was lore with the beta edition off of Beasts of War. So that was my first Kings of War experience. But I was just showing the guys, too, that I have the very first cardstock map of Mantica here. So... but we'll go over that. There's things we can talk about with that. But yeah, it's been around for a while, and things have expanded quite a bit, which is exciting. And so the rules are the rules and stuff like that. I got to admit, I am dipping heavier into Champions at the moment, because I've got releases coming up for Champions. And so I've got a few things cooking I can't really spill the beans on right now. So, but I've been working on that more than 4th edition, actually. And so I've been, I've read the rules and I've looked at it. I've moved one solo game around on the table, and that's about it so far. Reading rules and has kind of come secondary to the lore. We've been doing our lore episodes here. So I'm kind of with you on that side right now, Wiki Dave. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Champions was always supposed to complement 4th edition, and that's why all the Champions are included in. But that's a bit of this, because all this is going to be spoiler. We might as well say that before we're diving in. If you're listening to this for a non-spoiler review, you're not going to get it. We can't really talk about the book without talking about spoilers, right. Just keep in mind. And actually, first off, spoiler, if you look at the image that I actually have on screen, you notice the spine of the book has actually changed from what they originally showed to what's actually released. And the one they released is the one from the Destiny of Kings book, with Matthias holding a staff. So, but yeah, I think Champions was always supposed to complement it, and I think that's a good strategy going forwards. Like, they want a smaller game, you sell Champions. You want it to grow from there. Go for Kings of War, and yeah, I do like the fact of all the Champions are included in this book. Which is, you mentioned that there's actually some short stories based on one of the champions in here as well. Even more in Invasion. So the champions is I think the one thing you should know from a lore point of view, all the champions, unless I think probably the Void Talon is probably the only exception here, and all the Northern Alliance one, but all of them are either included in one of the books, because we've got Axel, we've got Terran, and Stand of Kallenspire, or they're included in here. I think Terran's actually got a short story in here as well. So I think the champion heroes are going to be very significant from a story point of view going forward. So, which is really, really good to see that kind of strategy in terms of the storytelling.
Yep, they told us that was going to happen, so it happened.
It's good to see it. It's good to see
Absolutely.
it. Matthias, so throw it over to you. What's your overall thoughts of fourth edition so far?
I like my book.
Do you like your book? Do you like the book as in the fact that it looks pretty, or do you like the book because of the quality?
It's pretty.
It's pretty.
I have to say I suffer for good hardcover books in fantasy. So I'm a little bit of a book collector. So even if I don't play the games or anything, I buy hardcover books from time to time if they are good made. So it's important for me that it's not just the rules or army lists in there, but also how the overall feeling is. And so I have the second edition hardcover for Kings of War here. I have the third edition hardcover and now the fourth edition hardcover. And I like the fourth edition most, followed by the second edition, because that's one where we got a German translation hardcover back in the days. But it's like, so the overall book, it's really nice made. It is thinner than the third edition hardcover. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I've got them on my screen for anyone listening. I've actually got that. I got the second edition, I think, off Trade Me or eBay. I can't remember which one. But yeah, if you look at the size difference on it as well. It's about the same thickness, though. Actually, no, the fourth edition is definitely thicker, but it is missing a few armies in there as well.
So it's a smaller format and a little bit thinner, but it also was a nicely made book. And I think the third edition now is the weakest one from all those. Mainly because it's the heaviest one with not that nice of a content, I have to say. Because I
do like the bookmark in the fourth edition. Like that little black bookmark it's a nice little edition.
Yeah. I mean, we got everything. We got the army lists in there. We got a lot of background, a lot of maps, which is always important just to get an immersion into the world, that you know where things around, where is everywhere sitting. And we also got lore with the army list. So the army lists also have the little lore snippets into describing the armies. So you get an overview of what are the factions, what units to expect. So when you're reading the lore further back in, you know what everything is about. And a lot of nice pictures and things like that. So it's a really nice made book, and I really like it because, be honest, rule books are hardly ever there to read or learn the rules. Because it's more like, and I don't know the English word. In German it's schmökern, when you just sit there, skip through the pages, read snippets, and get lost some.
I think skim is kind of like
just skimming it, just flicking through the book.
I don't know if this is the gets. I think that gets lost in translation anyway.
You Germans, you just come up with all these fancy, cool. And actually, a lot of the cool words, and in English, we're just like, it's like skimming, but not quite. And it's like, your word's so much better than us just saying that way.
No, but this is like this is so, and just for this sitting down in the afternoon on the chair and things, and go through the pages and read lore snippets and things. So it's a very nice book and very well made for that thing. And you can get lost on the maps and things like that easily. So it's, I would say Mantic has improved with the books from each edition. And I am now, how to say, I have to buy the other books because now that it get a spine art and on the cover, I need all of them in hardcover.
That's how they get you, mate. That's how they get you.
I was surprised to see that the rule book had part of the art, so you definitely have to get that. So I did not think that was the case from the pictures online, and then when it came, I'm like, oh, good thing I got this book. So
I'm also happy that they changed the artwork, because from the preview one, it's like, because this is an art that is also somewhere in the middle of the book, and this would have been quite boring to have the same one on the spine.
True. That's probably why they changed it.
Yeah. So this is also, this makes it more like a collector's item to have on the shelf for longer, because it's like, how long, even if, so rule books really show their worth if you want to keep them and read them after the edition is gone. Like if you have a book and they say you never touch it again once the game moved on to another edition of one, then it wasn't a good book, because it's like, but there are these old books when they go to, go back, read them. Like I have still the 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy book that it's nice to read from time to time and skip through it, while I haven't touched the 8th edition book for not even once in a while after the game died. 3rd edition 40k was a similar quality, nice book, and that thing. Also some of the roleplay games, I still like the Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 books, just to get through them once, and I think this. So, and this is also one where I can see me in 6 years when we go move the 5th edition, still going through that one in a while, and so
yeah.
That's my first so this is my first impression of the book. So. See.
I mean, it's a big meaty book, especially when you look at the lore side of it. So it's going to take a little bit to digest. I mean, we're saying this only a month after, probably not even that, of actually getting their hands on the book. I think I got mine mid-December. I think that was around about where it came. It just took a while to get to my end of the woods or something like that. But yeah, I came in around about 3rd edition, so I wasn't around with 2nd. But going back to 2nd, comparing it to 3rd, 2nd has a lot of good lore bits in it, especially when you go for every single unit and it gives you a little lore piece of every unit, and I really love that kind of stuff. I go back to that. The wiki's got a big part of doing it, going back there and trying to figure out what the hell this means, because in 3rd edition, it's used, but there's not really a description of what that unit actually is. But when you go back to the 2nd edition, it kind of elaborates what that actually is. So I 2nd edition's got that big piece for me that I always go back to. But 3rd edition, I don't see myself going back to a lot more. So you make a very, very good point. It's like, I can see myself going back, especially when we go into the map, or we go into the timeline, all that little kind of lore stuff. I see myself going back to that 4th edition book.
I mean, and in 4th edition, as you mentioned, the unit description in the 4th edition book, they replaced that with pictures of the actual unit, so you also know what each one is, or get a better impression as from the text. So, and this is something the 3rd edition completely missed. So you neither had the pictures nor the unit description; it was just there. So the 3rd edition was much more rules heavy, despite having a large background section. So this is definitely an improvement here, going back to the glory of old days, if you want.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So,
I guess all right. So we've done the good bit of saying what we like and everything like that, and I feel like we need to do the opposite. So we have to go through just our overall thoughts. We don't need to elaborate them until we really get in nitty gritty. But what didn't you? Because I mean, this isn't counter charge. We're not going to just be complimentary and just not be critical at all. So let's go through what we didn't like about the book. Specifically, we'll keep it lore based. But we'll start this time. We'll go reverse. Matthias, we'll start with you.
From the lore point of view, I miss the units or the armies from the invasion book.
Yeah, that's
because
a big one. A
this
lot
is
of
the
people
one
mention.
thing that it's, I mean, I understand why they didn't want to print it double, but now you have 3 armies. I mean, of course, the new army, Circali being invasion only, okay, this is fine. You buy a new book for the new army and things like that, but now you have 3 armies with the lore snippets for the armies missing from that book. So it's just from the army list. So it's from the lore point, you're missing the information you need for those 3 to go through the other lore. So if you are new to the game and you haven't heard what salamanders are, you just can't read it there in the book, in the faction overview, to know what they do and what they are, while you encounter them later somewhere to know and need to know the things. So it feels incomplete from that point of view. So having the basic army lists with them in there would have helped, even if they're already immediately outdated and updated with the invasion book. But just from the lore section, that you know, these are the units, this is the armies, that's what they do, and make it a complete book. So this is the big negative for me here.
Yeah, I think the big one is, especially how Sigali is the big shiny new thing, is that when the big new shiny thing comes out and you go, all right, I'm going to get into this game, so you buy the rule book, then you realize Sigali is not actually in there, and then you have to buy the invasion book to actually get that in there. Yes, there's a Sigali lore bits in there, yeah, definitely, but not the actual army, because there's 4 armies in invasion. So there's the Trident Realm, Salamanders, Halflings, and then the Sigali. So you're missing 4 pretty cool armies as well. I mean, Halflings as well got some new models released of them as well. So yeah, I completely agree with you on that one, and I think a lot of people in the community do agree. The thing is that I understand the decision. It doesn't necessarily mean I like it. I understand why they split it up, and I understand the logic of, hey, it's available on Companion. Why are you guys complaining? But it's also the fact of like, well, I mean, we just spent all this money. We kind of want a little bit more bang for the buck, which is the problem with the economy or whatever, is shrinkflation. Everything is getting more expensive but smaller, and I think this is just a reminder of that. And I think a lot of people don't like that, especially how most people in the hobby are older, like myself, like Mark and like you, Matthias, and we remember the old school stuff when you spent the same amount of money for like something double the size of what you've got in your hands at the moment.
How to say, Mantic has a tradition of incomplete rule books, because even back in second edition, I mean, not even the first edition book had all the armies in there, because there were everything new and the armies were added over time.
The Basileans weren't even in there.
Oh yeah, I mean they were added later. Yeah, absolutely.
And second edition with the Uncharted Empires, you got a lot of armies later on for different reasons, but they were also missing from the core book. Third edition, same thing, and 3.5 was missing the Twilight Kin, because they were coming with a Clash of Kings later. But this is like, how to say? So the Twilight Kin missing from 3.5 was the thing, because this is the shiny new army that gets all the new models, new bits, that get their own book. This was understandable. So this could have happened here with the invasion book, to get the shiny new army in there. And I think from a sales point, it was a missed opportunity to not put the basic list, let's call it that way, into the rule book, so that people know what they expect from the updated lists, because now we are more or less flying blind for the next 6 months, because we don't know how much are going our armies to change from the core book lists to the next campaign book lists. They could have put a basic halfling army list in there, and then the upgraded one in the invasion book, and everyone would know, okay, this is the change, the level of change we can expect for the ongoing game in the next 2 years. So this might have helped here in hindsight, but I understand why they didn't want to do it, because doubling down on people just buying the rule book, not knowing there's an updated list around and things like that, it's get complicated in some ways. But it's just from a lore. So now we are missing like the army list lore information for those 3 armies at least. From the book, and this is like a downer for the lore, because In somewhere, salamander units are mentioned. You don't know what they are because you don't have the list in the book to check what is this unit they're talking about.
And we'll do a review on the invasion book as well, because there's some really good salamander lore in there, because salamanders haven't really been fleshed out. And when you read the invasion book, there's some really cool stuff in there, which I can't wait to dive into. But we'll stay away from that. We'll try and keep it focused on the 4th edition, but I really am excited for that. And I've actually worked out in my head how the invasion's gone so far as well for the Tiger Claw. When you smash the Stand and Callan Spire together with the lore, because it doesn't actually quite marry up perfectly, but I've got a way for it to marry up. Anyway, we'll stay away from that for now. Mark, we'll chuck it to you. So I guess
we're doing it in reverse order, so that means you're in the middle and I'm at the end. So
I'm trying to avoid it. All right. Anyway, I'll go through it then. I'll go through my issue. I'm talking it from a lore point of view. I'm really stoked for the fact of stoked. I don't know if it's a universal term, but very happy about having the timeline in there, having a bit more fleshed out. I'm a bit disappointed in the fact the reduction of factions. I get the argument, I get the gameplay reason, all that stuff, but the fact of now new players, when they pick up, won't want a free dwarf army kind of bums me out. Yes, technically, this unit unlocks that or whatever. There's nothing in here to say free dwarf faction, or that someone that's actually reading through it goes, I want to make a free dwarf faction, will be able to work it out, because it's not really clear in the book about that. The reduction of factions, factions I always saw, at least in Kings of War, is a very unique aspect to what appealed to me in Kings of War, of having so many options that you basically can make the army of your dreams, and have if you want more of a light-hearted version of dwarf, you got free dwarfs and all that stuff. So I was a bit disappointed, although that reduction, yes, doesn't necessarily mean they're gone for good. It doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to get any new factions. It was just a bit of I feel so bad for all those people that have got those armies, and I've seen a bit of discourse online about that, which it sucks to follow something for years and years, and all of a sudden be told you can't continue that. You're going to have to be basically frozen in time with that particular army, unless you want to convert to the new format, which some people don't really want to do. They're kind of like where they sit at the moment, which is understandable. I'm disappointed again. Yeah, just what you said, Matthias, there, of the exclusion of those 4 factions from the core book. I think at least you could have put a bare bones version of it, and also because the whole argument of everything's digital, yada yada yada. The rule book is a good snapshot in time of what 4th edition is right now, and if it's not in the book, it's only available digitally, or in this case, you have to buy the other book. It just adds to the cost of following along with it. And not everyone likes to be online. I don't personally like to be online all the time. It's not something I always want to do. But knowing that you have to in order to play a tabletop game is kind of kind of crappy a little bit. But no, I say that knowing that I'm building a damn wiki, which doesn't make any sense. But yeah, from a lore point of view, I think they've done a really, really good job. There's a few contradictions, but whether that was on purpose or not, that is just one of the fun things about the universe. It's just working out whether something was deliberate. Such as, and I'm pretty sure it's a typo, and the Stand in Callan Spire, there's a character that's called Kaiju, I think Kaiju Slayer, but in the book they're called Kaiju Killer. I think I got that right. So it's little things like that I like to overanalyze. But yeah, overall, I'm really happy with it, and I can't wait to really dive into the nitty gritty of it, and then figure out one little thing that annoys the hell out of me that makes me hate the entire book. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Mark,
there you go. Well, I'm disappointed that the extra factions got cut. That
I know
hurt.
your brotherhoods are gutted.
Oh man. Well, no, I mean, and the Brotherhood took it in the chin earlier on too. So I mean, the poor Brotherhood. Hopefully they'll come back as something somewhere along the line. But
I mean, they
yeah.
still exist inside the Forces of Nature army, and it's kind of implied that they merged with the Basileans, the Order of the Brother Mark.
Yeah.
But I mean, one of the units is named after after one of the books that is based off the Order of the Green Lady. So.
Yeah.
So,
but again, like you said, if you're not a previous, if you're a new player, unless you're really
you're never gonna know that
or something, you're not gonna know any of that stuff. So,
I mean, this is also what
retcon.
Sorry,
go ahead,
but this fits into that being frozen in time, because it's like this is the Kings of War has a progressive lore. So everything that is now printed is as it is now. Everything that is was in the past is in the previous rule books, and everything that is coming along is in the new book. So you have really at that point in time. So we are opening the lore book now that is this specific year in Pannilore, and for that year, that's how the faction looked like. The Brotherhood, Brother Mark doesn't exist at the moment in this point of time, in this year of the lore in that book now. What's coming ahead? Let's see. I mean, the Nature Knight is there for Forces of Nature, but the Order is wandered off.
Yeah.
Now the big question is where they have gone, where they are wandered. Are they coming back? Are they onto something? I think we're going to see that in some future books, maybe.
Yeah, I think they still exist, but it's just like Free Dwarfs. Free Dwarfs technically still exist in the world. They're still there, but they've just been integrated into the Dwarven thing. So I mean,
not free. I mean, it's going a lore-heavy discussion now, but Free Dwarf, like at that moment.
That's why we're here, mate. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing it.
Sorry, but I don't think that Free Dwarfs at that specific moment exist. Because they've been pushed out of the Harpy Mountains, they have been absorbed into the Empire of Goloch, and we know a dwarf civil war is kind of going on, or coming up, depending. So, like for that specific moment, Free Dwarfs as a faction or don't really exist in the lore at the moment.
So let's just say it out there: the factions that are no longer playable, you could say, because I've kind of separated. If you notice, for those that are visual, these are all the brilliant new logos, which I have to admit that's a compliment too. I love the new logos. I think they're really, really, really great. This is all of them. I've actually made little custom ones for Armada as well, with a little ship right next to them. So I think that's really cool once the wiki set opens up, which is on the 15th of February for those that are curious. But the factions that no longer are playable doesn't necessarily mean they no longer exist, but just no longer playable. I've actually broken it down in a faction section on the wiki. So the previously playable factions, but in my eyes are technically still in the world, the Free Dwarfs, the Herd, the League of Roidana, Noble Undead, because there's still some good undead out there, Order of the Green Lady, Riftforged Orcs, Sylvian Kin, and Varaganaga, which a lot of these factions have been mentioned in the Invasion book as well, of still existing, especially the Varangar and the Free Dwarfs. They're still around. The Herd is integrated into the Force of Nature, Free Dwarfs integrated into Dwarfs, League of Roidana integrated into Kings of Men, Order of the Green Lady integrated into Forces of Nature, Riftforged Orcs integrated into Orcs, Sylvian Kin integrated into Elves, and Varangar integrated into the Northern Alliance. Now, the defunct factions that I say are pretty much merged, gone from this world. So far, I've only got 3. So I've got the Brotherhood, obviously, because they split into the Order of the Brother Mark and Order of the Green Lady. Then Order of the Brother Mark pretty much merged with the Basileans. And then the Retcon Slaves are pretty much just Abyssal Dwarfs. Which, I'm disappointed they didn't take them more kind of like the Abyssal Dwarfs that like to experiment with all these different slave races like Orcs and Retkin, and just make these weird, ridiculously overpowered like hybrids. It's kind of like Fallout. But yeah, that's the kind of the way I've broken it down.
No, maybe
Dave, you never know what they get in their rework.
Yeah, exactly. The reworks could become about all. I would say the previously played factions, all of them still exist from a lore point of view in the world. Like the herd, and there's actually a good story in here. I think with Flax Hoof, I think it is. And he was introduced in second edition, so it's good to see that character being brought back. I've actually got a Flax Hoof right here that I haven't painted yet.
Yep, there he is. I have one.
Got him right there.
I have one on my paint table. Yep.
Yeah, and it kind of implies that the Green Lady is going a little bit kooky, going a little bit crazy, and so we could see the herd coming back of maybe, that's the military kind of arm of the Green Lady. So yeah, it's interesting to see them get rid of so many, but still include essentially an ability in the books to make that army if you're in the know about it already. Which and you can tell the ones that are because it unlocks them, so they've got a little 0 next to their unit thing to say you can't select it until you have unlocked and selected a hero for it. If they're gonna do that, just make it like a sub army or like you can just keep the theme thing. Like, what's the point? Because I mean, it seems like integrating them is just your subtle way of doing the exact same thing, but just making it seem like you're getting rid of stuff. And I don't know. That's more of the gameplay side of it. From a lore point of view, I'm kind of gutted because it just means new players aren't going to see these factions and go, I want to build a herd army, or I'm going to build a Riftforged army, because I do see orcs and Riftforged orcs being two separate things.
Yeah,
so.
you're going to see the orc army and then decide if you want to go feral or Riftforged themed.
Yeah, it's got to be an interesting one to see how it's taken. But again, it feels like it just loses that uniqueness.
More interesting if we see dedicated battalion boxes in future with those themes.
Yeah,
because this is an option, and that would work. So you get the Riftforged orcs box and you get the feral orc box, and then you can decide which one to buy and to choose, or if you want to mix and things like that. So this could be an option to make this visible again without having dedicated lists.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I guess
it'll be interesting to see the upcoming orc battalion box, or stuff like that. Is it going to be a mix of the two? I'm hoping we get new orc models, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the benefits of them doing this is to consolidate their planning process, because they want to bring out models for every single faction. And one of the problems is having too many factions means, that having that rule makes it very, very difficult to stretch out. So maybe in the future, we see the reintroduction of these factions and they bring up unique models for them. But I guess, from a business point of view, completely understandable. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going off the case of, well, they have to do this because X, Y. I know those reasons. Doesn't necessarily mean I like them, in terms of I agree with them from a business point of view. From a fan point of view, I would have loved to have them there.
I mean, let's say they are understandable to a certain point if you like it or not. But it's exactly. You also know your local game store, how it's. If a game store say, I want to have the complete Kings of War range on my shelf, and then I need 30 different boxes, and some of those with old metal models nobody buys and things like that, that's a hard sell for the store. So it's a reduced number of factions, and this is the core factions. This is also how the release now works, because when I say you have a book coming with 4 factions, a store can focus on those 4 that are newly released and switch boxes out every half a year and things like that with the new shiny thing. It's much easier to handle in that way. But it's even if you would have to have everything at once, it's understandable why they don't want to do this, and why a new army release is linked to a book release and not just throughout in the wild. So it's also.
And it's not over yet, because I mean, at the end of the day, they could reintroduce stuff. We've still got Armada, and they're even talking about introducing some factions.
You already mentioned it in the previous stories podcast that the current planning is out for about 2.5 years of content with the planned faction release and campaign books. And the cycle for the edition is 5 to 6 years. So there's definite. So it's two possibilities. Either they are going to spread out the books more and they are cover the whole faction re-release over 5 years, or they start releasing new stuff or previously dead stuff again after that. So that once we have all those factions with new models, with the model range completed in those new books after 2 years, then we get the new factions ahead of that. So might be Ophidia. So after 2 years of old stuff, maybe Ophidia is coming. Maybe Brotherhood is coming back. Maybe some completely different thing that we don't yet know or expect is coming up. So it's... And then it could be slower releases with a focus on new armies and things like that. So, and expanding the lore on that side. Because now we have a big world map and there are possibilities around there, you know?
Yeah. And I think what's interesting as well is some of this book and even Invasion kind of implies some of the factions are fracturing, like splitting. Similar to what the Brotherhood has. You got the Green Lady going a little bit cray. Salamanders have already decided to get away from her. And we've got the Basileans kind of having a, what should we do about the Wicked Ones debate? Some of them want to just get rid of them, kill them, and another one say, oh, they can be redeemed. And that's a very kind of poignant kind of conversation that's happening in the world of whether people deserve to be redeemed or whether they deserve to not. So, yeah, I think it's going to be quite interesting. And when I started thinking about the lore and about what this is pointing towards, there's kind of like 3 different kind of plots going on in the world. But then I remembered that one of the books coming up, one of the we got Invasion, but the next book is called Fracture, which is making me think that maybe we're going to be seeing some fracturing of factions like the Basileans, and we'll talk about some of that theory crafting.
I mean,
at the
we
end.
know Forces of Nature will be in there. Ronnie said that already, and this is also what they say. What's going to happen with the Lady and the Herd? Are they fractured? Are they combined again? What's going on? Are those 2 armies into one, or are they split somehow again? It's getting interesting. And one thing that also Ronnie said is that every unit will get models. That is now in the book. So we already have some Herd units in the core rulebook, and we know they are going to stick around, and they are getting models now. So we are looking into
finally some Satar or Fawn models.
Yeah. So everything that's now in the rulebook is getting model. Question is just if we will get resin or plastic models for them.
And then they can split after the fact.
Yeah, or we get a full digital release. Fracture could be
Salamanders.
The nature's fractures, and all of a sudden the Herd pops out of there, and the dwarfs fracture into dwarfs and free dwarfs, and then you add 2 factions back. So that could be something.
I mean, we're not saying the factions are gone, because from a lore point of view, they exist, and we know that. They've even mentioned in these books that they still exist. Free dwarfs is a good example of that. That they're not gone. They're just at the moment integrated. And the army list is not a lore thing; it's our thing. So it doesn't necessarily mean how the lore goes and how the army lists go. 2 different things. So it'll be interesting. But anyway, I think we've talked about that enough. Let's go into the map, because that is another juicy little topic that everyone loves to see. So what I've got on the screen is how much we knew before the book. This is the little snippet of the world, all we knew. And now let's scroll out a bit. That's what we know now, which is a
world.
Bit of a difference. It's a massive difference, and it's so cool to see this huge world fleshed out. And I mean, when you look at it, you start to think it kind of looks like the world, doesn't it? Well, apart from countries that apparently get left off maps, including fantasy maps. Where's New Zealand?
Yeah.
Where's New Zealand's represented?
New Zealand is always missing, isn't that a joke?
Yeah. There's a book of Map Men. I don't know if you've seen the YouTube channel Map Men. where they talk about maps. They actually came out with a book, and there's actually a bit, and I think the first chapter is about how New Zealand gets left off maps all the time. My girlfriend bought it for me for my birthday. I love that kind of stuff because that is the thing. Even IKEA leaves us off maps, and it's a thing that we actually have. There's a subreddit called "Where's New Zealand" or something like that, like New Zealand being left off maps. And if you go to the error page on the New Zealand government website, it shows the map without New Zealand. So we take the piss out of it because we know we're just a little country at the bottom of the world. We're not a huge player, and we know we've forgotten. But
I think that's because Lord of the Rings was made down there, and they don't want to have too many tourists going out.
We invented bungee jumping, guys. We helped make the atom bomb. So, like, guys, we caused a lot of drama in the world. All right, we matter. Let us matter. Anyway,
all you gotta do is just pick a little island on the bottom there of the map on the lower right-hand side there.
Pick Tasmania. No one likes Tasmania. Anyway, back to the map of Pannilore.
Yeah, I guess
it does look like
it's behind the penny. That's where the Pannilore script is. That's where New Zealand is on the map. Yeah.
It's down below. You can't see it, but yeah, it's quite interesting seeing them add so much potential as well. I mean, the Zakali. I mean, if you look at the Zakali Empire compared to the rest of the world, you realize that the Zakali Empire, the Zakali land, which they own, is about the same size as all of what we know. Which makes you think, makes you understand the scale of the Zakali Empire. A lot of people going, the Zakali doesn't seem like much of a threat just because the way it's worded and everything like that. But when you actually look at the landmass that they had owned for thousands of years before they invaded everyone else, you realize how many people they probably got and how big that empire is. But there's so much potential, especially in the south. I think there's a lot of forest, there's a big old forest in between, and think about how big that forest would be when you compare it to everything, of what it would be cutting off in terms of the other species that would be a little bit to the south. So I'm really interested to see what they've got planned there. In the invasion book, they do mention quite a lot of different species. Like they've got a subrace of ogre, which is an oni, with their hobgoblin minions, which is very similar to ogres and red goblins as we have them now. So it'll be really interesting to see what they've got planned for the south and all the little bits. And we know this is kind of the whole map because if you look on the left and right side, the ocean circus is the same, which means they basically connect. This ocean kind of connects with each other, which is a bit disappointing. So it means that they're not missing anything.
It doesn't mean it's the whole map. It's the same like when you have a world map with Eurasia and you have the Pacific on one side and the Atlantic on one side, but look at one where before America was discovered and you would have the Atlantic on both sides because they always thought this is just one big ocean in between. So this is just like, this is the known world. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's an undiscovered continent in between.
And plus, it's a world with magic, and we know that many fantasy worlds with magic, they have a way of shrouding a particular world. I think Warcraft is a classic example. Mist of Pandaria. The reason why it was called Mist is because Pandaria was covered in a mist, and that's the reason why no one knew it existed until they needed another expansion pack. But I guess we'll chuck it to the table. I guess we'll chuck it to you, Mark, first. What's your feelings on the map? Because this will be you showed the original map from first edition. How do you feel like how it's evolved now?
Oh, well, I mean, it's exciting to see the whole map. The first thing that comes to mind is how are they going to take advantage of it? Because obviously an army all the way at the southern tip is going to have a hard time battling the Northern Alliance. I mean,
magic.
That type of stuff.
Magic, Mark.
Magic. Well, I mean, they explained that in Warhammer, so they were going from Austria to the old world, okay? But, I mean, you got to have some. So, but this opens up the opportunity to have different areas of Kings of War, Kings of War, the Pacific Theater, so to speak, there's Zerkali Theater, the Southern Theater, I mean, you can have, to me, it's got to be plausible and it's got to be, why can my army fight that army? And that's one thing that always bugged me in Warhammer. So, but, I mean, everybody's got ships though too, but why is everybody rolling up the Mantica? I guess ships can invade, but the Zerkali went all the way around the outside. So, and that's a long way.
That's a long trip when you think about it, because
trip, man.
Like there's 4 claws, and I think I've got the map somewhere. I'll try and find it, but basically there's Zerkali Tiger a claw, swim all the way around here just to go here, and the other 3 just like 1, 2, 3, they're done.
Yeah, a little bit different. Yeah, that one had to leave a long time before the invasion. So
yeah, I made a little custom map, and I posted this on one of the Discords. And sorry for the audio listeners, but basically I put the invasion map with all the arrows of where the claws went, and I put little turtle, tortoise, a tiger, a phoenix, and a dragon, just to indicate where every claw is. But yeah, they kind of went all the way around. That's dedication. And I mean, they would have had to leave like at a different time than the others.
Yeah.
Like, they leave 6 months ahead of time, and the other 3 are just like, we just chill out. Yeah.
But from being a war gamer and World War II guy and all that type of stuff, I like it. So I think it's great. So the other question I have is looking at is flat maps are hard. Even like with our current globe and things like that. Then again, who's saying Pannilore is a globe, but it could be flat. But,
Magic.
Magic. Is there any type of distortion in here? Like, on usual flat maps, Greenland looks gigantic when it's probably actually the size of Chad, and Africa always looks small when it's actually very large,
Yeah. And this goes,
that,
I mean, we don't know whether this is the whole map, but this also could only be a quarter. I mean, you could make a fantasy world as big as you want. And I looked it up the other day. Pandora from Avatar is only 90% the size of Earth. I'm just like, why make it smaller than Earth? Just make it as big as you hell want. That's the joys of a fantasy world,
Well, I mean, you could be sailing along the one side off to the west, and all of a sudden, bloop, you're on the other side. I mean, it could be like a magic wall that's there, and you've walled.
Well, we know about we know about the fractures from Harpy's Rift, and then the Forces of the Abyss can go through those fractures from the Abyss to pop up anyway. And there's a bit of a story in Invasion about that when the fractures opened up on the Zerkali side of the world of that. They opened fractures, and this thing came out, and that's how Kaiju Killer or Kaiju Slayer got her name. But Matthias, we'll chuck it to you now. What's your feelings on the map? I mean, I don't have, I got disconnected from Warhammer, for many, many years, so I don't actually know where it landed. So, what's your feelings on it?
I like it. And I have to correct you. It's not the small picture wasn't what we got from the world map before, because there was this library room where there was a tease.
True, that's a very good point. It's in the book too.
Yeah, and it's now we got that laid out in much more details, and it's like, it is. You can get lost in that map. It's
yeah. There's so much to look at. I haven't even been able to document everything yet. So it's messy. And sorry.
Let's see. Some call it Easter eggs, because we have the Kong Isles somewhere there.
Isles,
so
yeah.
Maybe we get something. We also know the size of the Southern Rift.
Yeah.
Which always was teased as a cut-off in the previous map, so we didn't know how big or how large it's going to be south. And that kind of thing. We also know now the sizes of the deserts of Ophidia, and that there's something in the back. It's also now interesting that they mention not just the Zerkali, but also like other realms or states, countries in between. So we get hints of what we may expect in future.
Vampire ninjas, the Tissimo whatever surrogate. Pretty sure they're vampire ninjas.
Cat people.
Do you think they're cat people?
Cat people. Vampire cat ninjas.
Vampire cat. That would stand out from Warhammer.
That's
the Zerkali fight with them like cats and dogs. All right.
Yeah.
Moving
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Matthias, save us.
But I think you're
Yeah,
absolutely
it
right.
is
I think it's in so much. I mean, also the fact that they've renamed. Also, we're not using the term continents. We're using the term divisions. So you got the Norgrad up here, which is the top. And you got Mantica and Baratka, which is basically what we do. We knew that. That's the middle bit there. We've got Orindal, which is all the Zakali side of things. We've got Colavera. I don't know how to say that. Colavera. Which is basically over here. It's like the Africa kind of side of it. I'm trying to think from an audio listener point of view how they'll be able to understand it. And we've got Vest Isis, which I'm pretty sure they just mean like west. I think they've just used the word vest instead. Vest, so that's on the west of it. That's that island that you see on the left hand side. That's kind of a little bit snowy and not. And then you got Sathagard, which is basically south. So you got Norgard, which is in the north. You've got Southagard, which is in the south. You've got Vesteros, which is in the west. But you don't have an east kind of equivalent name. So, again, it's we said this earlier, Matthias. It's like, could you can copy my homework, but you can change just a little bit to make it look like it's your own. The guy has done that a little bit.
How to say, for those listening, we are not looking at more like a old Jurassic World map they copied, so like Pangea or another supercontinent like style, so we can identify where Africa and South America are still connected in that kind of thing, with Europe and Asia sitting as a big landmass together. I like that everything is kind of connected, so you don't necessarily need ships to go around. And it also implies, so this is something that we get off later on when we go to the timeline, but we know that humans are in the far east with the Xerkali, with the Hemicons in their empire.
Yeah.
We also got teaser that ogres and goblins are there.
Hobgoblins, actually.
Hobgoblin.
And they're called Oni. I think they're like weirdly infused ogres, it looks like. So there's this weird subspecies of ogre.
So I might be wrong now, but Oni were some Indian-style ghost things. Not sure if they're Hindi or Indian, but Oni. I have there something in my bag that this is some Southeast Asian or Asian.
Oh, here we go. Hopefully, I don't know if this will show. Give me that. Give me a sec. Oni is a type of supernatural demon, ogre, or troll in Japanese folklore.
Yep.
Japanese, yeah. Okay, sorry for the.
Well, that's what AI says. Whether that's right or not, take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, but there's something wrong. So we have this kind of thing, but it's also like, and because everything is connected and the races are old, so we should expect dwarves, elves, and everyone else sitting around in those edges of the world as well.
Yeah,
because it would be very unlikely to have just humans wander around all around the map over 1,000 years, but not dwarves and things like that. So
yeah, and the timeline they established when humans, dwarves, and elves did exist as well, and there are many thousands that they existed before even the Celestian arrived. So they would have migrated just like this humanity in real life. And we know in the invasion book, there's so many, we didn't mention the ogres there. We also got the orcs there. There's the orc lands. There's also the in Kong Isles, that's actually the birthplace of the salamanders, where they actually existed there. And we've seen now 2 variants of salamander, which Mark will. I think you're on mute, mate. No, Mark. I'll let Mark say his piece just in case. I think Mark's mic's died. He's trying to fix it at the moment. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And also, I think they mentioned some kind of like Eastern dwarf kind of faction as well. Which is, it sounds like more kind of magic infused. Mark seems to be back. Mark, we'll check to you. What were you saying?
Oh, no, it's just, goblins are everywhere. Undead should be everywhere. Humans should be everywhere. I mean, you should be able to chuck them anywhere. Orcs are rampaging everywhere. So, you can tie those in. it's only if you get like a specific type of race that you're going to have that traveling problem, where they're going to have to get in ships. There's, most of them like nature everywhere, right? So herds should be everywhere. So, from that standpoint, you could just dot them anywhere on the map that you want. So.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right, Matthias. And also, little fun fact for those that have read Stand and Cullenspire, they make a mention that one of the halflings have plans for submarines. So we could see that one day. We could see that one day. I think there's a line. I think it's near towards the end of the book where one of them goes. I think Hannah says Arnis has come up plans with making underwater ships similar to their airships, which would be interesting because it could be a little nugget there that we could see a halfling fleet of armada, but they're all like submarines and so forth.
Well, that'd be interesting. I draw the line of technology roughly around World War I for where Pannilore is going, and that's based on the Ratkin, with their machines and the way that a lot of their weapons look and things like that. So it's kind of got a little World War I type of flair to it. So I think that was maybe as far as they go. So which would make, but fantasy wise, but.
Yeah, right. It's Redkin feel more like a twisted steampunk version of things. So it's up to 19th century tech, early submarines, 20,000 miles under the sea style of halfling army. I mean, a submarine halfling fleet would be awesome. But this is just me. And
this is just fun. Yeah.
It's just.
It's a fun thought process. I do think there's a gap in the market, though, for 1940s kind of fantasy world fighting. Like, imagine World War II, but with orcs and goblins and ogres and all that stuff with that kind of hardware. I don't know. No one's ever done it. So, or if they have done it, it hasn't been that popular.
Not sure. I kind of remember something like that, but I'm not sure where.
Yeah, I don't know. Weird War II comes to mind. So we'll have to look
but specific for fantasy. I'm not sure if this was a book or a novel series or something like that. But it's there are a lot of things out there.
Just make it like 40K. Like 40K is always, like some people see it as just like a forward bit in time of the original Warhammer. Just do the same thing with Pannilore, but instead just stop it at World War II.
Well, Games Workshop has, I think, a wizard with a submachine gun or something like that miniature.
Yeah.
So,
there you go.
I mean, technically speaking, for old Warhammer lore, and this is like very outdated now, but from the times where I started, the Warhammer, so the fantasy world, was a planet within the Eye of Terror of the 40K world.
Okay.
So that's how they are connected. So this is like, but wasn't that what was Private Depressive done with War Machine to make the time skip for a sci-fi game with just from in the far future where everything has high tech?
I think
stuff?
so. I don't follow all that kind of lore. It gets lost on me a little bit. But
I just
so much lore you can process in there before it all mushes together and you start mixing D&D with like Warhammer or whatever. But yeah, I think the maps are really great job. So much potential, so much to digest here. And over time, my wiki will be my wiki. Sometimes it does feel that way, but the wiki will evolve to anything. Well, I don't want it to be mine because I wanted to be able to hand it off and other people like the fans or the audience just run with it because there's only so much I can do. Updating it to 4th edition right now, the reason why I took it offline is because the minute I start updating a little bit, they'll be like, why isn't this done? Why isn't this done? So I'm just trying to update everything. But anyway, let's jump along to the next bit, which is sorry, Matthias.
Let me just get one sentence out of for the maps now still.
Sorry,
something we haven't talked about this, but what I also like is not that we just not got that one map, we got also the historical world maps in there, like how Pannilore and Mantic looked like before Winter's War.
We had that with 3rd edition, wasn't it the same map? Or is it different?
I'm not sure if this was in third edition. Was it in first edition already in there?
I'm pretty sure it was in third edition. Because that map looks very, very similar to the Time of Ice. I think it's on page 253.
Is it the same map?
I think it's the same map. I'm going to bring up my photo.
Okay.
Where is it? Here it is. I've got my bookcase right here. I've got it. Because now I'm curious, because if it is slightly different, then I'll eat my words, and then don't worry, then I can update it with something. Mark, talk for us, riff.
Talk for us. There you go. Well, there you go.
Got it. It's the same map.
Talk much.
Okay.
It's on page number. Don't know. It doesn't have it. Page number 81 in the actual green book. But yeah, it appears to be the same map, unless they've added a few cities and towns, which I don't see. But I'll fine-tooth comb it and see it and just make sure. But yeah, I would actually like, on that note, actually, that's something I would have liked to see, is to see the historical map of the world map, to see how much of the end of winter affected it. Because as you can see, you got right in the middle of the map there, that's the Infant Sea. So the Infant Sea was created at the end of Winter's War, because everything over here was frozen over, and then when winter cooled down, it flooded everything. It'll be interesting to see how much that extended, because, and this is a little bit diving into the salamander lore, but salamanders were affected with something called the chill. And the chill basically causes their blood over time to slowly freeze, and they have to come back to a warm climate, or like volcanoes or something that's on the Three Kings, to warm their blood back up. And they originated from the Kong Islands, which is over here by the Zukali. And they do mention it. So it'll be interesting to see whether we actually will get salamanders that look, because they changed. All the skin kind of changed, or their outer shell, you could say, changed. And that's why we've got some introduction of some new looking salamanders. It'd be interesting to see how much of the Winter's War affected the rest of the world. Was the rest of the world had actually a lot more land? You know, you got this weird little gap in the middle there of a big old lake. Was that created after it? So yeah, you make a very good point, Matthias. So that the historical map would be interesting to see the wider view of all that.
Agreed.
Anyway, any final thoughts? Because I realize we've got a lot of things to cover, and we're already an hour into it, so this is going to take a while. All right.
Worst case, it's be 3 episodes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we've got the invasion stuff to talk about still, but that will be a different episode. So the next one we'll come along to, which is another big win in my book, is the complete timeline. So we've kind of now we're able to break things down into ages and times. So we've got the age of creation, I'm saying them in order, by the way: age of creation, age of sorcery, age of nobility, time of light, age of glory, the God War, time of darkness, age of expansion, time of woe, time of ice, and then the age of conflict. And they've all got years attached to them, and there's a big old dragon to kind of represent the progression of time. But we've got this nice little kind of picture diagram, I don't know what you want to call it, timeline of events that took place. Some events we knew about, some events we didn't. I mean, some of the big ones that jump out at me is it tells you exactly around about the year elves, dwarfs, and humans were created. So elves were created first in negative, and negative means how many years before the Celestians, before the end of the God War, before the Abyss was created. The elves were created in negative 35,000 years. And then the humans were created next at 28,000 years negative. And then the dwarves. So the dwarves are actually younger than the humans in ours, which is quite interesting. Dwarves were created in negative 25,000 years. And then randomly it just says the appearance of ogres and giants, which seems a bit weird. Like these races are created, then all of a sudden ogres were there and giants were there. Whoopsie daisy. But it also talks about the arrival of the great whims. So the worms or the dragons, basically, it's the proto-dragons. When they come, but they also got things like the Troll Wars, the War of Two Dragons, a lot of cool little tidbits in here that we didn't know about, and also you can see the birth of necromancy, that when magic started. There's so much little tidbits that doesn't really matter in the wider scheme. It's not going to affect any gameplay. It's not going to affect anything like that, but it really adds that. I know they love the word flavor to the world of the structure of it, and really gives them a good foundation going forward if they want to go back in time and actually tell some of these stories, which is always a possibility. And we've kind of got, there's actually two sections of the timeline. You've got the pre-Celestian kind of God War section of it, and then later on you've got the kind of the post-Abyss common era around about where we are now. But there's some really cool. You also introduce a new form of magic, chromacy. I think chromacy. I think time magic. Time magic is introduced, and there's so many. I mean, the God War itself. There's so many unique events, like Ozkin imprisoning Misata, the leader of the Shining Ones. It talks about how goblins were made like 20 years before orcs were. There's so many really cool things in this, and it's a lot to digest, but it's also, you could just take one of these events and make a novel out of it. That's how interesting a lot of these things are. Anyway, well, I guess we'll chuck it to you, Mark. What's your feelings on the timeline of all that? Anything that jumped out at you? You're mute again. Sorry, bud. We'll check it to Matthias. Why you fix that? Matthias, you go.
First things first, those timelines are created with in-universe lore. So all the remarks, that the little texts around those timelines are in-universe texts with whoever made those timeline give on their note on errors or where they sourced it and things like that. So this is really an immersive thing. This is not the third-party view from the overall designer and how they think, like, so how they experience those things in universe. And this is an awesome thing to say with all those remarks and things like that. And it also gives us an explanation about the world, because like what we knew about those things in text and from reading it, but having an actual diagram in there to see the scale, what happens when, the battles, the creations and things like that, makes it much more visible than just reading a paragraph of the world was created in the past and things like that. So
it feels so much more lived in when you see it. There's so much that happened before what we know. I
also appreciate the little artworks and things like that. It's really nice made. So
I really do like it. Yeah. Well, Mark, we're checking to you. He's back. He's got sound.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. It's just really cool that it's in there. You know what I mean? It just lays things out just even more for you. It's just kind of interesting. And there's, little notes in there and things like that are really cool. And you wonder if they're going to be able to expand on those. And they will. I mean, I'm sure they will. Over the years. So, like Celestian assault on Ophidia, those type of things. So there's just nice.
Well, that happens in Rise and Celestians. That event occurs in that book, and now it's actually on the table. I think it's like a year in it, but I mean, the Troll Wars, the War of Two Dragons, what does that actually mean?
Right.
Is it the War of the Great Ancients? Because there was a rival of two, because it says a little quote, as the second great flame Terrorok and Talagon set the sky ablaze with their descent. So does that mean we're going to see something, those two worms fighting each other, very similar to House of the Dragon? That's a good example of like two sides going at it that laid the foundation to what happens next. There's just so many little nuggets in here, like the sacking of the Silver Palace. What's that? What does that really mean? There's so many cool things.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, how many realms rise? So they filled the timeline in an interesting way to give us, because just saying the world is old, many thousand years, and everything stayed the same for 30,000 years until things happen, that's a boring block. But in this version of the book, we have two nations mentioned of rise and falling in the timeline over several thousand years. So we know something happened in the past. There was an age of civilization. There were republics around, dominions that rise and fall. Technology might have been more advanced in the past, but just forgotten and destroyed over time again. So this is like really. So this is it would really be great to explore something of those kind of things, and also that we now have a larger world map. It might be something that we get into ruins of past civilization discovering around the world, like digging up something old and things like that. It's
and they do mention a lot of that, because a lot of the nations got wiped out with the Winter's War. Everyone got flooded, and that's why they got gutted. But the fact that there's 2 complete pages before you even get to year 0 is pretty cool. Yeah, that's how much of the history that's there. I guess Chucky, you, Mark, because Mark, you always wanted this this idea of epic Kings of War, the miniature side of it. I think your hypothetical game, could fit nicely into the God War or somewhere along here, based off all of this timeline.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's one of the things that is kind of exciting is, just looking at all this history and taking a look at it. Like, if you take a look at it, the post-abyss is broken down into ages as well. It's one big, epic, and then it's got time of darkness, age of expansion, time of woe, and, time of ice and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot here. You can do a lot with it if you wanted to do historical Kings of War, so to speak. So, which is kind of exciting. So,
and for those that are interested, once the wiki's back up on the 15th, you can actually go into all the ages. I've got it on my screen for those that are on the YouTubes, but you can actually go through all the ages, and I've actually listed everything by year. So, I mean, I've got the Age of Conflict right now. It's a very long page because it's got everything. It's got when characters were born. It's got, a lot of, especially a lot of stuff from the novels are in here as well. But it also has all the stuff from the book. And every age has its own page. And you can actually go through like the time of woe. It's got all the breakdown there, and this will be added to over time as we discover more and more. And I think that's what part of the fun of documenting all this is. This is really the starting point of really starting into the nitty gritty. Yes, there'll be a little bit more scrutiny on the lore, but as a result, the more you document, the more you follow a particular narrative, the more you're going to have to keep to it to a certain degree. But it's also, you can also recon stuff as long as you say, yeah, we changed it. I mean, as long as there's a good reason for it. If you change things just because, we didn't think the other one was cool, sometimes that can bother people. But if you change a story like we have with the smashing of the mirror, where it initially was written like a guy that was a little bit of an incel, and he's just like upset that a girl doesn't like him, so decided to like destroy the world, to now being this whole manipulation that a god got in his head, twisted his brain and made him create something to doom the world. That kind of change is good. You change it from just being a bit of a sexist story to now being one that changes the world. Not change the world, as
it changed the world.
It changed the world, but give it a lot more weight, a little bit more gravitas to it, and make it a little bit more sense. So I can't wait. I can't wait to really start to see where this goes. I mean, one of the things that did jump out at me is that I did get my timeline wrong with some of the modern events, such as the the Abyssal Crusade. I thought that happened 2 years earlier than it's actually stated here. It actually takes 3 years before the expansion of the Abyss, which is quite interesting because the Abyssal Crusade is about the Abyss kind of opening portals and allowing the forces of evil through. And I thought that led on to the Edge of the Abyss of why that ended up. But it's actually a 3-year gap, which is quite interesting. And it does elaborate on a few things there, like when Chill was constructed for the Northern Alliance. There's actually, I would say there's a bit for every faction in here. Also, when the Reckoning occurs, which is when the Varga actually took it to the Abyss and just took their forces and went down there and messed them up a little bit. But there's so many cool things that you could just look at for forever, and like the founding of Du, which is the capital of the Abyssal Dwarfs. We got like when King Gollick comes into power, the exact year. It really has set the foundation for some interesting things going forward. It doesn't say when Shadowed Horizons, even though there is a bit in the book about Shadow Horizons, doesn't say when that occurs, and it also didn't say when the Deepwater Crusade occurs as well, which I've got a feeling the Deepwater Crusade, the more I read about what's going on right now, I think actually hasn't taken place yet. I think, based off what it's saying, I think it takes place after at least the Zakali initial invasion, which explains why the Trident Realm kind of sinks in. But that's another thing entirely. I would recommend anyone just to look through it and really dive into it. And I do like the new logo they kind of have with the timeline, which is this dragon of time, Tempest Dracus. I really like that.
Well, the other thing is I notice a lot on here is the word Ophidia. So, I mean, if you look at 38...
Ophidia comes up a lot in these books. Yeah.
Yeah, take a look at 3867.
3860.
At the end of the Common Era. So, Ophidia defeats Empire of Dust incursion.
I think that's why the ogres were, there's that 2-player starter set that had ogres and Empire of Dust. Right. I think I think the ogres were recruited by Ophidia, and I think there's a short story that takes place about that as well. I have to remember, but it talks about I can't remember, maybe A Breath of Desert. I think it's by C.R. Chester, which is our friend of the pod. Breath of Desert, that actually goes through how the Ophidia was hired. The Ophidia hires ogres and they fight as well. So that must be that event, which is quite. Yeah. But Ophidia comes up a lot.
It comes up a lot.
In the Zakali lore, I mean, it talks about in the Zakali lore and invasion. We'll get to it. Of one of the snakes, the Uranus, disguise himself as Ophidia. And then Kulan figuring it out and killing him. So Ophidia comes up quite a lot. I've got a feeling Ophidia, there's a reason why they keep bringing up Ophidia. It's a big territory, but they could just easily ignore it and say it's disestablished, but they don't. They keep bringing it up. I've got a feeling they're coming, which I don't... Introducing another faction, that might be messy, but...
Well, that's how you got rid of some factions to add some factions. It's like 3317, Ophidian... tribal wars, against the herd.
Yeah.
Like,
against the herd. That's interesting.
So, yeah, isn't that's kind of cool. The other thing that's interesting too is the timeline. It looks like on the detail at least ends in 3868. We're at 3870 right now, I think.
Yeah, we're 2 years later than this. I think it's just because I ran out of room, to be honest. I think Shadow Horizons, takes place probably in 3869. I would say that's probably where they slide in.
Well, the Night Stalkers and Abyssal Dwarfs assault the lands of the Northern Alliance in 3858. So,
and it's a little bit tight, but again, It's little semantics at the end of the day. But we also know that during 3866, that's when the War of Stone, so that's Ben Stoddard's trilogy of novels, Pride of the King and Stone of Argument. What is it? The Stone of Argument? That's it? I think that's what it's called. Why does that feel weird? The Stone of Argument.
That's the Argument of Stone.
The argument of stone, I got it the wrong way. That's why it sounded weird. All right, yeah, the argument of stone, that's taken place.
It took me a moment to realize what's wrong. It's just
I was just trying. I was like, that's not right. I know it's right, but we also know that that's yet to conclude, and it's quite interesting. And I was going to bring this up in the invasion book, but in the invasion book, it mentions the salamanders sending messages out about the Sakali, and one of the messages go to Golok. But if it takes place in 3870, it's after all that stuff. But it's kind of implied in the argument of stone that Golok's going to fall, but he hasn't fallen yet. That's a bit of a spoiler. So it's interesting to see how that story is going to play out, whether Golok is going to stick around or not, or was it the fact that Sakali has actually been in contact with the other races for a while? And this is they actually made contact before Golok fell. And all this, but we'll go into that with invasion.
Should be, because the timeline ends with the 12th Civil War ongoing, the distant east seeing tumult and some landings and things like so. We let us say that this is the historical recording in universe. So this is like if you imagine that whoever makes this, whoever makes this chronomancy and things like that, he hasn't all the information yet. He's just collecting it. This is where his writing is done. So this is the last point of his work to set. These are the events to come, because a historian can only record what's in the past and not what's in the future going on, or what's currently around the world until he collected all the information. So this is
and it notes the library, and it notes it says the first ethereal library. So I've got a feeling they burned down a couple of times, but the library starts at the age of nobility. That's the signal of the age of nobility. That's when the written document starts to happen. So that's why all the years before that is a little bit fudgy. But I mean, that's what the fun of the world is. You can add things, you can change things around. This is exciting.
And we also have a new or an updated version of the Faction Alliance in there, with on the page with the chronomancy. We also see that it's nature, death, and life. So that the triangle of the world that works together, where nature seeks to balance out good and evil. So good and evil is now not defined as death and life. With nature and time, spirit, and strive to balance things out. That's an interesting part for that one.
It's also got a weird Forces of the Abyss kind of lore drop as well. That Kronos creature that you can get in their army is actually an Abyssian skin beast that wields the Curse of Ages, which is a very interesting kind of thing of that. It sounds like that's it's something that a beast that's imprisoned, but it's very, very, very old, which is quite interesting.
So there are a lot of so small. Go on, Mark.
Oh no, go ahead, Matthias.
No. So this is also what I always said at the very beginning why I like this book. There's so many small snippets to check and go back again, because you open up the pages, read those things first, may miss some context, then start reading everything else. Then you go back to those pages, reading it again, and then you realize, okay, this is the thing, this is the other thing, that's why I think this is a very well made book from the lore, and appreciated everything is still in universe lore written.
And also it explains why Garamak is no longer on the orc list, because his rebellion takes place in 3796, which is like 200 years, I think. 100. No, I'm getting that wrong. It's about 90 years or 80 years ago, something like that. It's a very long time ago. The orcs don't live that long. So it makes sense why he's not there anymore.
Which is
also the spawning of the Gnor, which is also interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I mean, this is the big advantage of having a progressive timeline in your fantasy world, because changes to army lists, changes to characters dropping out, new ones coming in, if your time progresses, no one except for elves lives forever. So you have those people change. This is the best excuse you can get in universe why some old models are replaced by new ones. Why an army list changes to a new one? Because the army or the faction as it was isn't the same anymore after those wars, those years of progression. Nothing stays the same for 200 years and things like that. So this is I really appreciate this, that this is still supported with in-universe lore and writings like that.
Yeah.
And not just let's change things without explanation.
Yeah, well, I mean that does help soothe my nerves a little bit. So you're right, time does move on, and you're in the current timeline. So, but then again, the other thing that's in there too is the spiral of time, and how time isn't linear; it's a spiral, and then you can have the leaking of various things in between the different epics and stuff like that. So there's echoes that manifest, depending on where you're in the spiral. So they thought of all sorts of things. And then you've got the material plane, the abyssal plane. It's kind of a little D&D flavor there. So they really, this is probably the best part of the lore for me. So is all these, like you said, Matthias, is the snippets, but the timeline is just really kind of cool, just going through it. And the timeline does mention the free dwarf, so I guess they are in the book. So
and the Varga, they're mentioned there at the Reckoning as well. And at the end of the day, I think I would say out of the 4th edition, this is the best edition because it starts to set a really solid foundation of the world, of going forward, the story, the fact of new writers can come in, they can look at this and go, hey, I can tie my story in with this event or this thing that happened in the past. And it really, they talk about uniqueness, talk about flavor. This is what builds the difference between, we always refer to Warhammer because that's its origins. It did originate from Warhammer. This is what's going to add that uniqueness and that specialness of people going to compare Pannilore to a different kind of fantasy world. And I think there's so much freedom here, especially going forward, allowing characters to fade out, allowing legacy of characters to end. That's one of the things that people often forget is a story isn't a story until it ends, and the story needs to end eventually for a character. And it's really cool seeing all these champion heroes coming up, and building Axel's a really cool story. I can't wait to see what happens with Axel. Terran's a really cool halfling hero, but even Aaron from Broken Alliance. The fact of that, one thing that really got me with the new Stand and Cullen Spire book, and why I think the Stand and Cullen Spire is a really good precedent of what to do going forward. It mentions his pony that's in Broken Alliance, Win, and he renames his new dog. Like, I can never pronounce the name of it. Arazil with a Z. He names it after that pony that was in Broken Alliance, and that's such a small thing, but it also ties it all nicely. Of like he went through all this war with the League of Roydana with this pony, and he's named his next mount, which is this dog, after that pony. And it's just that, I don't know why, it just felt like that's a world to me. That's, this character who's been through so much, he named his pony after it. I don't know. That bit got me right there. And like, there's so much potential of this world going forward just because of that link. And that's a really good example.
Well, it's like the short stories. My favorite one was the one with Olaf getting old.
Yeah.
So
legacy characters, man.
Yeah, legacy. You see he's a blip on the timeline here too. And it makes it interesting. So, that eases the pain a little bit of some of the missing factions, but not totally, because I don't think they're gone. But
I think it's a start. I think it'll be
a start to making me feel better.
Yeah, if those factions are gone forever, I'd be very surprised. One thing I was very surprised about that they left off was the Dungeon Saga events. There's no mention of those here. So when did that actually occur? We know Olaf is involved, and he obviously is a human, and he's old now. And we know that he's involved in the Abyssal Crusade. He's in that narrative, which is 38 to 47. So it's close to around about that date, but I'm very surprised they left that off. But I guess any final thoughts from you guys about the timer before we move on?
Best part of the lore.
No? Best part of lore. I would say it's definitely up there. All right. Now, the next bit we're going to be is the overall history. So, I mean, this is a review. A lot of the stuff is stuff we already know about. So, the flooding of the abyss, and we would go through all the ages as well. I think the Age of Ice, going through a lot of that stuff. There are little additions here and there and changes, but I mean, the God War is a big one that's had a lot of good meat added to it. And fleshed it out a little bit, but I mean that's going to be a story for another time. I guess if we were going to go through every little bit that did change, especially how the story in the Green Book compared to what the story is in the 4th edition book with the mirror, the smashing of the mirror, and all of it's written by the guys that are writing the novels and writing all the lore for the invasion book and everything like that. So I would recommend reading through that. If people want us to go through that story and actually tell the new story of the God War and all that, just let us know. We'll do that. But I would love to see a book on the God War, which I was really hoping that happens after the Fall of the Celestians. So the Fall of the Celestians is about the smashing of the mirror. I hope they actually make a book about the God War. I would also love a book about the Time of Ice. I would really love to. But, I mean, that's going to be very interesting with the modern story as well. And I've got my thoughts about, maybe that ties in with the story that's happening with Zakali and all that. Then you got the flooding of the abyss, and there's a couple of short stories that go in there. There's a good story about Arakamora, which is the ogre champion. Yeah. It's very suspicious about what's going on with that one. There is also mention of the League of Infamy, which the vampire Mathina. I can't really say her name, but she comes up again, which is interesting that they bring back the League of Infamy because there was always supposed to be a book about that, but I think it was cancelled. But they got also Shadow Horizons is mentioned in a bit of a spiel about basically what happened. So if you're ever curious about what happened with Harpy's Rift, there's a bit of a rift on all those events and everything that went down. Basically, the Harpy's Rift is what the catalyst of why the Zakali is all pissed off. And then you got Shadow Horizons, but Shadow Horizon clearly takes place between Harpy's Rift and what we're going through now. But no mention about the Deepwater Crusade, which is quite interesting that they didn't add that in, which is making me think it actually happens after it, just based off some of the story that's currently happening in the Evasion book. And I will elaborate that. But yeah, anything jump it? I mean, I'm kind of glossing over a lot of this stuff because it's there's not a lot of stuff that we didn't already know, just a little kind of fleshing out here and there. Any thoughts on that, Mark and Matthias? Anything you want to add?
Not much, Matthias. I'm going to throw it to you.
Not much to add from the text itself, but appreciate that isn't just a wall of text, but also the nice artwork, the in-universe snippets in between, like the letters and the short stories. And we see, I also like that we have some artwork of buildings and architecture now in the books. So this helps point. that helps to get an impression how the fantasy world look like. So this is
it's like Elvenholm, I think, has a really good, I mean, that was in the 3rd edition, but I get exactly what you're saying.
Existed. This is a nice artwork. But the ones after, I'm just searching for the page now. This is, I think, in
this one's pretty good.
Back in the old book too, so with the Basilean stuff. But
I'm pretty sure this is in the Mouth of Lithith. I think this is the Twilight, and it looks really, really cool. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people forget. I mean, we talk about the world so much. We don't have another visual on buildings and all that kind of arc. And I think you get a lot more in the Zakali invasion side of things. You get a lot more that architecture that you're referring to. But yeah, you're definitely right. We need more of this. We need a lot of this, more printed arts of the stuff. And I would love a comic. I think that this world is fine for a comic.
A comic book would be awesome. But like looking at the buildings that are shown on the page with the Pannilore mirror, that should be page 242.
Oh yeah, that's the artwork for the Fall of the Celestians, which is
right.
I think that's already come out. The artwork's been already released, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, there it is. Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
that's Ozkin looking at his. I think basically looking at his wicked half. That's so cool.
That was you could flick as you're flicking through the book. You see the covers of the Winged Hussar novels. So that's kind of cool when you're like, oh, okay, I know what book that is.
Well, I remember Brandon saying like one of the big achievements that he from a publisher point of view and just as a fan point of view that he was loving is the fact of getting all this custom artwork for the novels. I mean, we saw that also. I think right at the start you got the Argument of Stone cover work as well of not bad, but Garrick. Yeah, you see Garrick. Where is he? Where's Garrick? Where is he? He's right at the top. I'm not going to scroll all the way up. But yeah, you got Garrick there, and I think that's all that art starts to build up, and I really hope. I'm glad they're using it. I would like to see them credit the artists a little bit more in the artwork because I see sometimes I see the work. I'm like, oh man, who did that? That looks amazing, but it's hard to tell who did it. So I would like a maybe. Add in a little credit down below of who did it, because I would love to look up some of that artwork, because I'd love to get some of this framed, because I've got my Dungeon Saga stuff framed up there. But yeah, you're 100% right, Matthias. I love it. But we might as well jump into the short stories, because I think the short stories kind of lead to what is happening at the moment. Now, there's a bunch of short stories. I mean, Akamoa is the one that I mentioned before, which is a little bit vague of what's happening with that one. I think she is definitely going to be on the more evilest side of whatever champion story takes place, based off what's going down there. But some of the other short stories really lead on to what's happening. So we've got the letters that Mathena, for those that don't know it, I'll see if I've updated her page with her artwork. There we go. Mathena Arleveld. There she is there. She is a vampire. She's often rumored to be the founder of the League of Infamy. And she is on the artwork of the League of Infamy box, which I've got there, but I'm not going to reach for it. And her
STL is available in the vault. I have printed
it. Her STL is available in the vault. That's very, very true. So if you want, and maybe paint it up and send me a better copy than the one I've got, because I couldn't find a really high definition painted version of it. But she's writing a story, and the League still exists. I think this is the reason why this is included, is that the League of Infamy is still around, and it's written to so the Barthemus Crow. Which is I think actually Barthemus Crow was a Kickstarter character. There he is. Kickstarter.
He's also in the vault, and I've printed him as well.
There he is. There. Yeah, he's a necromancer. So it sounds there's a reason they include these stories, right? There's a reason why they put this in, and it's kind of hinting about some stuff happening in the Forest of Glaher. But it's good to know these characters are still around. And it kind of elaborates on of the happenings of what's going on, and saying that the Zertzakali are returning, and that it was there's a lot of things going down, and then it kind of goes into also Zertzakali about what's going on. Now, a lot of people are confused about why the Zertzakali are doing what they're doing. To explain it to me 5 explanation. Basically, when the Rift of Harpy happened, it opened rifts all over the world. And some of those rifts opened up in the Zertzakali lands and then released these giant beasts. After the Zertzakali fought off the beasts, the leader of the Zertzakali, I think Kaloon Timloon, something like that. I'll call him Kaloon. It was a Kaloon because it sounds funny. Kaloon was like, all right, I'm going to go talk to the 4 that are 2, which sound like they're Celestians that have merged together. I'm going to go talk to them for some advice. And then the advice that we're given is, the guys over there can't be trusted with goddamn magic. You need to go over there and just stop them from doing it, because we know all this messed up shit is happening over there. You don't think weird sex stuff is happening with magic? Like, there'll be weird shit happening over there. I need you to go over there and just stop it. So the Zakali went, all right, we're going to raise a force, and we're going to go over there and take them over and stop them from using magic, which is why they've done what they've done. Why they're invading is just so that they basically don't believe anyone else but them can be trusted with magic, because they use magic. They've got witches in cages which act like as an EMP for magic, basically, that stop magic users from using their spells. And so they're going over there to stop them from using magic, because the two that are 4 or the 4 that are 2, whatever you want to phrase it, basically said that they can't be trusted. And now they're going over there like some kind of, hero to say, you basically agree with us or we're going to kill you. But we're the good guys. But it's like, no, you're not. You're not the good guys. You're not the good guys in this story, guys. You guys are, conquering people just because they're not doing what you want them to do is typically frowned upon. But that's basically the Zakali. But there's a lot of cool short stories, and there's also a story, as I said earlier, with Flex Hoof, about the Green Lady going a little bit cuckoo and just being a lot more aggressive, which is why the Salamanders basically have abandoned her, which is why they're not on their list anymore. Cool to see Flex Hoof there. We also got the Pilgrim, which is an in-universe newspaper that's typically published by Basileia, by the Golden Horn, I believe, and it talks about 2 shining ones coming down from the mount, and that's Misakator, the leader of the shining ones, and a new one, Rhinobold Stormmaster or Stormbringer or something like that. And basically, they've got 2 thoughts. So Misakure believes they can be redeemed. So the wicked ones can be redeemed, that what they should be doing is trying to save the wicked ones from themselves, basically. But Rhinobold believes the opposite. They believe they're beyond redemption, and they need to be essentially exterminated, which in universe has hinted that if you kill one, the other dies too. And that's how the wicked ones and the shining ones, because they're linked, because they're split Celestian. You kill one, the other one dies too. It's kind of been implied. I don't know if that's still the case, because it's a very, very weak note or mention in the lore about that. So it looks like there's some kind of division happening within Basileia. And we also got Navy stuff happening as well with Lord Dravald, which is still around, which I've got a feeling we're going to learn a lot about him with the Kings of Men faction release that probably be included in one of the books. I would say sooner rather than later, because there's a lot of models that need to be released for Kingdoms of Men. And the last one I want to mention, that there's a good mention about the Oracle, which we learned is the Shining One, Azeron, that's hiding in the north with the Northern Alliance, and that I believe that she is on the fence of that the wicked ones can't be redeemed. So there's kind of like 3 different plots happening. We've got the Zakali invasion of them basically saying, you guys can't be trusted with magic, we're going to take you over. We've got the division on the shining ones of some believing the wicked ones need to be exterminated and some believing that they can be redeemed. You've got the wicked ones slowly making hints that, and this is more hinted in the invasion book than it is in this one, the wicked ones sounding like they found a way out, and that barrier is falling. And also you got another plot of the Green Lady going a little bit crazy, allying with orcs, going, not being as good as she probably should be good. And her allies abandoning her for that, which we saw in Salamanders. But that's a long spiel from me about a little bit of a summary of everything that's happening. So I'll chuck it to, I'll go Matthias because he's above me. Matthias, what's your feelings on the short stories? Anything there that kind of jumped out on you? Is there anything that I said that you want to disagree with? Because I like that kind of stuff.
I mean, I agree to the point. So we are setting up the story in the rulebook. So that fits in with the timeline thing. We have a timeline that progressive to a certain point, then the in-universe snippet of what's actually happening at the moment with these short stories, which are and we are setting more or less up the plot for the coming books. We have the Green Lady who want to have balance at all cost with the Shining Ones and Wicked Ones uniting again, which isn't a problem because not everyone has their half still available. So there need to be something done to compensate. The Oracle wants them to be either imprisoned or be gone anyway, and the Shining Ones on Basilea are not sure what to do in combination with the invasion from the Xerkali. So I think these are the plot points we're going to see explored in detail with the upcoming books. And yeah, let's see. We have also the stories with the herd in there. We have the
I'm glad Flat Surf is still, because we don't actually know some of the, like how long certain races live for. Like, Centaur, do they live for the human age or do they live for a horse age? I mean, there's so many
or
things.
an elf age.
I mean,
or an elf age as well.
And the rule book closes with a slur, which is always nice because the last sentence.
Oh yeah, yeah. The grunny one.
Sentence, it's not the very last one, but it's like there are two short stories or two letters at the end, and the page before you have some written out.
Yeah, I do like the Grony and Grony dynamic as well. And I think that's another thing. Sorry, I forgot to mention that one. There is some weird goblin stuff going down as well. We got the short story that was in the Road to 4th edition about these kings going up. But in the story, I do like the continuity. I've got a feeling this was written by Rob because it does mention the whiz in there that was in this Ascent of the Goblin King. I can't remember his name. What was his name? Because it's written like he's telling him, like he's saying, it's like Siri recording every single thing. I can't remember his name. It's Cackle. Yeah, I think it's Cackle. I think he mentions Cackle in there as well, which I love that continuity. It mentions Glimmer and it mentions, I do hope, as a bit of lightness, because in worlds like this, you want the lightness and the fun. You want the fun stories, the ones that are a bit more ridiculous, and you want the serious at the same time. You want to mesh really well, and I hope Goblins kind of fill that void, and I really hope they do. They clearly are doing something here, and they're building it up. So I love that to explode to be something. Yeah. I also should mention that in universe now there is a new book called The Erotic Adventures of Ronnie the Bard.
I was just about to say that. Yes. Those are one of the little snippets that are in there. So, and they're fun little things. You know what I mean?
They're fun.
Yeah. It's like, you know, how Grogger signs the note that he has. I got to find that real quick.
Kiss my ass. Yeah. And
that's from Grony, but he says, Grogger Splittooth, king of all goblins, king of all the world. Definitely king of stupid Grony Grog and Snark.
but it also shows you that goblins live, because I mean we know that the one of the goblins, what was it, the goblin, so we know Grony was around for Ascent of the Goblin King, which is about nearly 20 years before the current timeline. So goblins actually live a lot longer than I initially thought. Magua and Joe. So the reason why, Magua, the reason why he lives so long is the staff that he's holding. This is according to the book, is basically an elf staff that allows him to live for a very long time. But Magua is no longer available as a unit, and he's noted as very old in Ascent of the Goblin King. I've got a feeling that Magua died, and that Grogger now has the staff, which is why he lives for so long. because, as I said before, they only live for, it's not really disclosed of how long goblins live for. I would love for goblins to live for a long time, but because they're just cannon fodder all the time, they never get to. So it could be the staff has less to do with it. But it also, it makes you think of like Grogger, like what's going on there? Did he get to Glimmer? That's another question. Did he make it to Glimmer? It kind of implies at the end of Harpy's Rift that he did, but it's also sounding like in the stories that he didn't, and they're still looking for it. And there's a whole bunch of drama that happens over in Glimmer. So I feel like there's a good goblin story here, and we're just waiting for it to be told. And I've got a feeling it may be told in one of the books. And I hope that's the lightheartedness that's in the invasion, because the Zukali invasion, everything that's going down, that's got to be very intense and very heavy. But you also have factions that, one, won't be that involved, and two, you need the lightheartedness, you need the fun, you need those stories that aren't world ending. Otherwise you just get a Marvel situation where every story has to feel like the world is ending and something dramatic and big has to always happen. But these worlds, realistically, that doesn't happen. Sometimes people just chill for years. Sometimes factions don't do anything for a while, but they still got stories to tell, just less epic.
Yeah. Hopefully. Well, speaking of Marvel movies, I mean, my wife's watching the Marvel timeline. Every one of them is like constant explosions. And it's just like, man, this is it's just
and the good ones are the ones
I don't like watching it. So
yeah, the good ones are the ones that are a little bit more low key. Like the reason why people like Iron Man, the world wasn't ending; it was just a bad guy. But I mean, I hope they go down that road, and that's why you need to get different voices into the narrative writing, different voices involved in the process of developing the storyline. Sorry, Matthias.
Talking about you need this comic relief from time to time. This is also by what are the good Marvel movies? It's the one that are how to say lighthearted, where you have this it's a serious movie, but it's not everyone is dead serious all the time, and you have your comic relief moments in there. And for a lot of fantasy worlds, that's usually the halflings. In Pannilore, it's more of the goblins.
Yep.
So the halflings are much more serious in here, much more technology involved. They're more like the gnomes from other universes, and in here you have the goblins as your sidekicks, the funny guys. They are evil to the heart, but sneaky, over the top, comic villain heavy. I really like the goblins in Pannilore. And the other point is what is a little bit lighthearted, just because I skimmed over it. We have talked about in the beginning that the army section has pictures of the different units in there.
Yeah, I love that.
Which unit is which, and the Vampire Lord has the picture of the halfling vampire on it. This is, I think, such small things to have this lighthearted effect on a rule book, because it's like you have Lady Ilona, and the mighty Vampire Lord is the halfling we got in Vanguard, and this is like the small funny things in there.
There's so much cool potential here, and I'm really hoping that they make sure they keep evolving. I think that this is the key. A lot of this lore did come down probably to a lot of external voices outside of Mantic, like authors and writers, and that have helped contribute to the world. They really need to keep doing. I mean, the writing that's in the Invasion book compared to this, the Invasion book is definitely a lot better in terms of its writing when you compare it. I like the Invasion stories, the short stories, and a lot of the basic lore of each faction a lot better than what was in this book. I don't know why. I don't know if I would assume that they got the same writers, or at least the same voices on it. But I think that's the key to keep this going, is to make sure you keep involving those voices on the lore, because lore doesn't pay off straight away. Lore is something that, you're going to look back in 5 years after 5 years of continuous lore development the way it is at the moment, and having that mashed together really well, and you're going to have people referring to stuff that is written now in the current lore, and that's what you want. You want this legacy. You want people going back. You want people to read Broken Alliance and then read Stand at Callan Spire and go, oh, this is how they all match up. Oh, I get it now. And that's stuff I love, and I really hope other people like myself, get involved. I love this. I love to see this world evolve. It'll be sad if they take a step back. I think what I worry about is that it didn't hit the way they wanted, maybe, and then they learn the wrong lessons from it. You could say, like you get that a lot with movies, is that when a movie doesn't hit, they blame the wrong thing, or a video game doesn't hit and they blame the wrong thing, like Concord. There's a good example of a game that failed last year, and a lot of the narrative that came out was, oh, it failed because everyone bashed it, or it failed because of how it was released. No, it failed because no one wanted the game because it was boring and generic. But then, and also live service, no one wanted live service. And then Sony turns around and goes, well, we're going to try again. It's like, dude, you're learning the wrong lessons here. It's like no one wants this game. Just stop doing it. Do something else. And I hope that happens here, is that Mantic is very good. And I like to think, at least, and I've seen this from Ronnie, and I've hopefully, I've heard it from Ronnie more. I haven't heard it from Matt, but their actions speak louder than words. And this is my example of why I think Mantic's on the right track, is when the halfling models were released and the new halfling models were released, a lot of people got upset at the fact that you had to buy the battalions, or you had to buy the older new models with these ones in order to get the brand new models. They weren't sold individually, and that pissed off a lot, which is understandable. You're a fan. You've followed Mantic for so long. The ones that are going to be broadcasting, how excited they are about this range will be the current fans. And then you turn around and go, well, we want more money from you, so you need to buy stuff you already got to get the new stuff. And it left a very, very sad. There was some very strong language on Facebook, very strong posts. A lot of people were very angry, but they did redeem it. They did release them individually, and did release them as you can buy them separately, which is what they should have done from the beginning. So I'm really hoping they take those lessons, they move it to the next release and go, look, we messed up. Let's fix it, because your fans are going to be the ones that are going to be promoting your game the most. And your target should be focused on getting new players. But if you don't satisfy your cheerleaders, they're not going to cheerlead it for you. Then you're going to have to put them in the camp of getting those fans back. And then that's just going to take more resources. So with the lore, I think they've done a really good job. Meshing, a little bit shaky at times, but it's a step forward. Take the good ones, learn from what went wrong with the next book, smash it out again. And if you keep doing that, you're going to have such a strong, rich universe that any external developer that wants to do something with you, whether it's a comic book person, whether it's a video game developer, whether it's someone that wants to make an animated series, they're going to look at this lore and go, we know what we want to do. We're going to make it awesome. We're going to make it look like that world. There we go. That's my spiel. Sorry. I went on a rant.
No?
That's all right. That's what we're here for.
That's my ADHD. I catch myself out when I do rants and I feel embarrassed.
Very, very good. All right. Is there anything else we want to cover?
Well, I think the final one, because we're heading to that 2-hour mark, which is a lot longer than I anticipated. But let's do our predictions. So I've gone from my prediction that I think there's 4 ongoing stories. So we've got the shining ones disagreeing about how to approach the wicked ones. We've got the wicked ones breaking out the abyss. We've got the Zakali invasion, and then we've got the Green Lady going crazy. Now I'm not even mentioning Ophidia, but those are the 4 things that I think is happening. So I guess throw it to you, Mark, first. What's your predictions of how it's going? Do you think that what I've said makes sense, or actually, if you do completely agree with me, what's one of those storylines that are taking place? What's the one that's intriguing you the most?
Well, I'm going to go to. I think there's more storylines coming, and I think that they're going to come with each of the books because they're going to kind of, take the story in a different direction. It's kind of like going to take
You
like
reckon?
Zerkali off the headline, so to speak. How the politicians will come up with something to distract everybody from what they don't want to be talking about, so to speak. So,
Spoken like a
who
true
knows?
American.
There you go. Hey, I deal with it every day. So, but you know, um, but I think that might be happening with each of the books, and I think that it's going to be growing the story, and then you don't know, and that's part of it for us. We're used to knowing, we're used to knowing the lore because it
Yeah.
was it was done already.
It was a
and
bit
we
static.
knew what it was. It was stagnant.
Yeah.
I don't like to use that word. It's just
Well,
it was
no. I said static, not
static.
stagnant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
like it. You knew what it was.
Yeah.
And now it's not. It's very dynamic.
Fluid.
It's fluid. It's dynamic. You don't know what's coming in the next book. So in a way, it's a little disconcerting. So, because you don't have your arms around it. And I think that's part of fourth editions. Yeah. It's a little bit of fun because it's like reading a novel series, and the next book's coming out, but you haven't read it yet. So,
well, do you think you think the invasion is just that because right now I think that's the main event is the Zerkali invasion. You think it's got to peter out, or do you think there's going to be a dramatic thing that stops it?
Well, it's going to evolve. So I don't know what it's going to be. Is somebody else going to jump in? Are they going to try to tie in, like the Tiger Claw went around the Horn of Africa, let's say, did they irritate somebody? Are they going to attack their supply ships? I mean, there's so much you could do, but then that's what it means. We used to know the lore, and then the different thing that would happen would be a Winged Hussar publishing novel would come out and add to it. Most of that was in the past. It didn't really drive the story forward. Here, the story's driving forward with each book. So every 6 months, you're going to get knocked off center. And the next book in the series is coming out. So, this edition is kind of like a book series. It's a serialized novel. So,
yeah, I think it's interesting the novel's tying into what's happening on with the narrative as well is a lot more intriguing and exciting. Because I read Stand at Cullenspire, and it does mesh. It does connect to each other. You could read the invasion book, and there's a particular moment in the invasion book. You switch the book, read the book until a certain point, and switch back to the book. Essentially, Stand at Cullenspire actually runs concurrently with the Trident Realm history. So that's a little tidbit there. But I do like the ability also for writers to be able to go back in time and tell those older stories, like what's happening with the Stone, the War of Stone, with the Dwarf Civil War. I'm going to get 4 of the Celestians. We'll tell about the God War, and the fact that it's all written down on paper, in events that have already occurred. I do like the idea that they, Winged Hussar could go back and tell a few of those stories. I would love for a Zerkali history book a little bit. We do know the bones and the skeletons of that, but the founding or when the current Kulan comes into power, a lot of the stuff could have easily had a short story attached to it. But yeah, I think you're right. Is every book that we're going to get is going to add something to it, and whether it's going to be themed towards a different event that's going on. I think maybe the next book with the fracture idea, maybe we're going to pivot to that Celestian story about what's happening up north, about Aslan starting to speak up and getting more involved, and all the Shining Ones in Goldenhorn disagreeing. Is that going to be more? Because we didn't get a lot of Basilean stuff with this book, with the invasion book.
Well, Forces of Nature is the number one faction, so it sounds like the Green Lady is going to dive in. So
yeah, but we also know, like with the invasion book, Zerkali was the number one, but you got so much Trident Realm, new Trident Realm, not just stuff that was in the recent Clash of Kings. You got new Trident Realm stuff, you got new Salamander stuff. Sadly, Halflings are my favorite faction. I wasn't too happy with the Halfling stuff of it, just because of the way it was kind of written. I didn't really get a lot of good stuff out of that for me personally, but yeah, I think it's really exciting. I guess I'll chuck this over to Matthias. Well, what's your feelings on what's happening next and your predictions?
It's a tricky one. I mean, we know the names of the book coming. So the first book being Invasion, then we get Fracture, which we know will be Forces of Nature, Arrogance, which will most likely be Elves, Ruination, Alliance, and Death. And very early on, we thought about that Alliance might be when the factions of Pannilore unite to fight off the Xikali invasion. With what we know or what I've read now in the rule book and my impression there, it might also be possible that this is going to cover the alliance with the Xikali to fight off something else.
There is hints to something else, yeah, that there's something else coming, which I've interpreted to be the Wicked Ones. I think they know the Wicked Ones are going, which is why the Shining Ones have come down too and go, hey, we need to deal with them now. Because I feel like something is brewing down below in the abyss of the Wicked Ones getting out. And I think everyone knows it, but everyone's approach to the problem is different. Xikali want to evade everyone. The Shining Ones want to try and have a debate and rally everyone to kill them. And the other side of the Shining Ones want to merge them. But yeah, you're completely right there, Matthias.
It is. And Death, when we first thought about it, covering the undead faction, obviously, right from the name, coming with Ophidia, but it might also now be that this is the death of some of the major players that the lore followed until now, because so how to resolve? So as you said, there are several stories lined up in the rulebook now. With the invasion, with the Wicked Ones, with the Shining Ones, with the Abyss, what is going to happen, how they're resolved, how is nature going to act. So with Death, we may see something changed again or killed off as a major player replaced by someone else. So, and this could be still thinking about it, we see Ophidia with Death or soon after. And so maybe also, and this is something that's coming from Ronnie, what we heard at the Clash of Kings UK tournament, that Varangur get their own theme and model line. So Kordan will be a major player in future. So he might be the new big evil guy coming up. So this is something that we don't know yet, or this isn't in the rulebook stories for now. What's happened with the old gods if they take their chance to use it as a big comeback now.
Right. Well, if you think about it, you're only going to get 6 highlight armies. Okay. So you got the Xikali in the first one. You're getting nature. You figure Ophidia is going to be death. Okay. So that gives you 3 more. So you need new elves and you need new dwarfs. So, who's the 5th one? Or who's the last one? Who's number 6?
So just for context, what Matthias was saying, Korgan is the god of air. He's one of the original founders of the world of Pannilore, one of the old gods that were beaten up when the Celestians came along. And the Varangur are the ones that follow Korgan. And there's a really good bit of the story in Rise of the Celestians about that, how he's kind of like he's beaten away. Everyone used to follow him. Elves used to sacrifice babies, all that fun stuff that you get with old pagan gods. And then they were kind of beaten away and they kind of shoved north, and they kind of got stuck up north. And that's why the Varangur hate the Wicked Ones, because they're a representation, and they hate the Shining Ones too. But Wicked Ones are worse because they keep on intruding on their lands, and because they want to be the only bad guys in the world. But yeah, they fight. And so yeah, what Ronnie is saying is Korgan's kind of been beaten back, but it also means the Varangur's probably not gone for good. Even though they're being merged with the Northern Alliance, we saw in short stories that they're still around. We've got in this rule book they're still around. So Matthias makes a very good point that we could be seeing more Korgan later on, especially the Northern Alliance getting a bit rowdy about stuff.
And it's also a possibility that because the Varangur use not directly undead, but resurrected.
They use a zombie. There's a specific zombie. I've actually got it recently on my zombie page. I've updated it. There's a form of zombie specifically for Varangur. I'm trying to remember what it is.
Yeah, I mean,
there he goes. The Drugger. The Drugger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drogur.
Yeah.
Drugger,
Yeah. So they have the resurrected units. They also have the old I forgot the name. The old followers of Korgan, the resurrected with gargoyle blood.
Isn't the Sons of Korgan?
Oh, they're a unit. Yeah, they're the cab.
They're a unit.
They're a unit. So, yeah.
But I'm pretty sure they're the. I have to remember. They got the Cursed Son, Thagans. Drogo? No, that's the zombies. Yeah, I know the ones you're talking about. Yeah, I have to remember what they're actually called. But
looking at the book names, I'm going to guess Ruination is theirs. So
yeah, there's a lot of potential. I do hope they have the ability to pivot, though. That Mantic aren't going, all right, we have to stick to the plan. I mean, you can still have an overall story, but I mean, one of the big things that will put a spanner in this whole thing, and it really depends on how they execute it, is the whole summer campaign of saying, hey, your decisions, your battles are going to influence what happens here. And historically, and me and Mark have talked about this previously, is those campaigns don't have too much of an effect on the overall story. It's like the story still happens, just they added an additional line of that reflects the outcome. So I do hope, and it's so hard to balance this right. So I don't envy them at all. But I do think it's a good idea. Don't get me wrong. This is that unique flavor I was talking about that makes Pannilore and Mantic unique, is making sure that you've got this overall story that you're planning on telling and being able to integrate what's happening with it feeling like a meaningful thing. And it's so hard. It's a challenge, definitely. But there's a way to do it. And a lot of stories have done it before. I don't know, probably not in this way, but it's a unique challenge, and I hope they take the lessons that they said, as I said before, take the lessons that you've done before, because they've done summer campaigns for the Edge of the Abyss, the Harpy's Rift, Shadowed Horizons. Take those lessons and then use what works, discard what doesn't, and then try something. So yeah, completely agree with you, Matthias. And I think the old gods are it's going to be interesting, but I do hope that it's not going to be like Harpy's Rift and no one really understands how the story went. I hope by the end of it, we will understand the story, that we'll be able to explain it to somebody that's not part of this world. And that's the goal. You want to be able to take the story, go to somebody that's not associated with Pannilore, hasn't been following it, and be able to tell them a wicked story. Instead of it just kind of like saying, the Zukali invasion happened and then it kind of just stopped happening. That's not much of a story.
But there's how it happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like a cool story to explain how it happened, why it happened, and because I mean, there's so much we don't know about the invasion. Like, who are the four that are two? Yeah, we've got vague understandings of what they are, but is really the solution of these wise gods just to take over everyone and stop them using magic? Why does that doesn't make a lot of sense, considering Celestians were all about magic? You know, why do they really think magic is I mean, they could make the argument of like those gods know that it's weakened the barrier between the abyss and the mortal realms, which is why they're doing this. Because if people keep on abusing magic, that barrier is going to fall. Now that makes sense, and if that's the reason, pretty sure if you just said that to all the noble races, about okay, we'll stop then. We don't want that to happen. we heard about the God War. It wasn't good. Wasn't a good time. But it's just the nature of storytelling's hard. Don't get me wrong. But also, this is a world that's always going to evolve and change, and I hope we're going to have 10 years, 20 years of this world and watching it evolve and seeing the quality of storytelling evolve too.
Right.
I mean, this is now Sorry, Mark, go on.
No, I was going to say, the story's going to evolve over the books, and the book should stop before, the end of the edition, hopefully. So we may get a dynamic world, and then things will get static for a little bit then. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if Clash of Kings books will come back after that, because, the books that we have right now are probably going to be they are taking the place of it. Matt said that. So you're basically getting 2 Clash of Kings books a year until they catch up. So, but
Yeah.
Matthias, back to you.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say that this is now a fun or part of the fun with the new edition is the speculation, what's going on, what's going to happen, how things are resolved. So we can now, this is like a live action story that we are in the middle of it. We can play our games with the models within the story, see how it progresses, see what changes. Also speculate, share our thoughts, what's going to happen, and dig up those little details. Like, we had so much fun in our detective work pre-order to 4th edition to dig out which might be the new faction and things like that. So this is like, and I hope a lot of people join in now to go on to read the lore, to check out the things, to connect these little snippets and connections and loose wires that are around to see what's going on and happens next. So I'm really looking forward to this, to the next book and how the story evolves and what else is going on there.
And on that note, you should note that we'll do another episode about the invasion book specifically. So we'll be talking about the halflings, Trident Realm, salamanders, and the Zakali, and all that history that goes with that. We'll be able to talk about the short stories in there as well, and just a little bit more meat about the invasion, and we'll go more into that speculative in the next episode. And just before we close things out, I just want to show my frame poster of the map. I'm very proud of it. You got the reflection on my monitors there, but normally it will hang up behind me. But I'm so glad they did this. I'm so happy that they did the map, and it kind of gives me something to hang on my wall. So, but yeah, I guess before as we sign off, if you have any questions for us for the next episode, when this comes out, we probably wouldn't have recorded the invasion one yet. So yeah, leave a comment on Spotify or on our YouTubes. Just let us know what you care about, your own thoughts about your theories about what's going down, because we will be talking about this for months. I mean, I love talking about lore. I know a lot of people don't listen to these episodes, but I love just talking about it. As you can see, I built a goddamn wiki, and I mean, every night is now me just doing the wiki because I need to get it done before the 15th, and I want to load every single faction with its new unit card from the book. So I'll give people an example of what I'm doing, because I'm doing it for every faction. Sorry, I just want to tell somebody because no one else is going to care about it. So obviously I'm updating quite a lot, and there's a lot that I'm updating, especially the maps and all that. But if we go to Abyssal Dwarfs, I'm updating with all the new kind of Warlord champion, and then when you click one, it has the new title card, so the new one, because all this is available on the companion. So having this here, it's just the same thing. All I'm doing is taking it from the book. So all the stuff you can see here, you can get from the companion, but also a history of that item, that unit.
Yeah,
so
that's
you can
really
go
cool.
So you can say first, second, third. Some of them are not going to be complete. I'm doing my best that I can. But over time, over the time of this wiki, I'm hoping to add more. But you can really just see how it's evolved. Like this unit, initially started at 300 points in the first edition. Now it's 250. And for those that love tabletop gaming, that love seeing an evolution, I think this will be really useful. But you can really see the evolution. I'm doing that for every single unit.
That's incredible, Dave. Absolutely incredible.
It's a lot of time.
That's a labor of love, man. If there ever was one,
it is, and I'm very proud of it. I just hope. I do worry that Mantic will have an issue with it. It's like, can you please take that down? I'm like, that's like hours and hours of work. It does take quite a lot. I think at the moment I'm in Dwarf land. Oh no, I think I just finished the Dwarfs actually. The Dwarfs are done as well. I think I'm on to Elves now. But I've already done halflings. I've done all the invasion ones, so they're all good to go. And as I said, everyone can access this on the 15th of February. But it's a labor of love of one person, just me doing it. So if you do want to help, please reach out, because I'm only one man. So, but yeah, it's all the timeline stuff from the new books are there. Every event that's in that timeline is documented with a link to it. I've also, doing the races as well. I think the races is something I'm quite proud about. These are all the races of Pannilore, each with its own little page that you can just explore. And hopefully this helps build that world that we're talking about, and people fall in love with it as much as I have.
You've fallen head first.
That's my life. Yeah. Every night is me reading a book. I read a couple of pages in the book and then typing on the wiki, and that's pretty much my nightly routine. God, I feel like an old person. I'm not even 40 yet, and I feel old. Anyway, I guess we should sign off there. We'll do another episode, and I'm just glad if anyone's listened to this far that they've enjoyed it. Hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, a final thing I wanted to mention too was, and it's the very final thing in the rule book, is, and I'm so happy to see it, the novels are on the very last page. It's fantastic.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Finally a tie-in with Winged Hussar Publishing. So a shout out to Brandon and Vince at Winged Hussar. Congrats, guys. You finally made the big time. But seriously, and the thing to note is I went and took a look at it, and it does mention the Free Dwarfs. So
yeah, I mean, Honest Price, I think, is actually one of the books are there. But yeah, that's something that Mantic is doing good. Like the third part, like these guys, like Brandon loves the world, and so a lot of the writers do as well. And the fact that this lore that they're writing is part of the lore, and treating your third party people with respect is so important, especially in today's world where if you treat them like Games Workshop has treated some people in the past, that stuff sticks around. People mention it all the time of some of the not so nice things that Games Workshop has done to their third party vendors and to their content creators and to so many. The fact of Mantic's trying to take the opposite approach is good. And they want to keep doing it because you want a good reputation, especially in today's social media, is that, bad reputations, those stories, that evidence, people will bring back after about 5-10 years. So be nice to the people that are giving you money and to the ones that are helping you build out your world.
There you go. Fantastic. So those are my final thoughts. Final thoughts, Dave?
I'm just ready to talk about Invasion. I want to get to the next episode.
Matthias, any parting words?
No, just following up for Invasion next, and I hope everyone enjoys our lore talking and the new lore in the book.
I can't believe we talked for 2.5 hours. That's crazy.
Know. Well, that's
and we still have topics to talk about. No, please, everyone out there, if you have made it at this point at the episode, I hope you enjoy reading through the rule book. Go into the details and read the lore. Just don't buy it as a rule book. Buy it really as an item to get everything connected, or buy the PDF. It's also available now, and don't skip that part of the game. It's really a wonderful experience. So
the link to the book will be in the description below, including the PDF version, which obviously if you're going to buy a book, get the PDF one unless you are really a collector. So.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, again, folks, thanks so much for joining us today and putting up with 2.5 hours worth of lore, and I hope you enjoyed it. Invasion may or may not be longer. No, I'm kidding. Let's see here. But thank you so much. Invasion is up next, and there's so many stories to dip into. That's why we have this particular podcast. So we hope you join us, comment, and we'll chat with you later. If you want to help Dave on the WikiLeaks, WikiLeaks. I go the whole podcast and I get it right at the end. But anyway, there you go, Fanouf. You can go ahead and clip that and use it on countercharge. All right. So anyway, thank you for joining us. And until next time, take care.
See ya.
Bye.